Okay, here we go, ladies. Oh yeah, of course we have the recording. You are recording this meeting. Everyone, make sure everyone knows you're being recorded. Does everyone know we're being recorded? Yes, no? Yes, that's how Teams meeting starts. If you have Teams meeting
can't hear
bingo,
you, Ryan.
if you have Teams meeting bingo, you now can click on the buttons that we're walking on. We are doing a live recording for the Cloud Talk Show, and we're hearing from everyone here. This special episode is about the M365 Virtual Marathon, and our special guest today, we have Galen Keane, who's on the for me on the upper left. Right below him is Joel Olson, who we had in the show before. Here's Joel with his special new feature of live feed, and then we have Ryan on the other side over here in Halo Land, not getting killed. Right now, the sounds you're probably hearing, I believe, are now the kids worried about getting a ticket because they're parked on the outside. I think now is the time to go and mute for Mr. Joel, just so we have no ambient sounds. But let me set the stage over here. And to begin with, I'm going to quickly share my screen so you see. Everyone should be able to see this. The main article that, fortunately, Joel has been so kind to have done 16 hours ago, as if he was preparing just for this. All right, we're going to post the link, of course, in the share. But this is literally his diatribe on everything that happened at this show. This is, to me, an achievement in probably the most successful SaaS platform that there is out there, which is Microsoft 365. And we're going to go through some of these things over here, but I have them all handy, where we're like literally looking at Power BI pieces, the sessions. I mean, these numbers over here are just amazing. So I'm going to go back really quick and get out of sharing mode. One moment, please. Got to be fast. I'm not as fast as Galen on the producing aspect, so I'm going to stop sharing. So we go back to pictures. Okay, we might have Joel's on mute right now. Hopefully he's paying off that ticket that they were giving him in the back there.
I'm right here. I'm not far.
Okay, I'd like to actually have everyone introduce themselves really quick. Well, you know me, Ralph. You know Larry over here, who's on the side. I want to start again from my upper because he was the first person to join. Galen Keane, please introduce yourself. Tell us what you do, and maybe in somehow one or two sentences, what did you do for that conference? Because I know that's normally going to be its own article.
Sure. So my name is Galen Keane. I am a collaboration architect and managing partner of Butterfly Technologies. So I work as a consultant, helping companies adopt and implement and maximize the value of their investments in Microsoft 365. For this conference, I looked to plug or fill any gaps that was needed. And I think the primary area of responsibility that I had was working with producers of events. So creating the training required to get everybody on the same page and enable our volunteer producers to be successful. And then trying to fill the holes that we had in producing the live events as they occurred.
I want to move on to Ryan. Ryan. And the next person on the list, Ryan, you heard how Galen quickly introduced himself and what he talked about. Same thing from you, sir, if you could.
And I will unmute. So for bingo people, here you go. My name is Ryan Scouchen. I'm an Office 365, Office Apps and Services MVP. I've been working with SharePoint for many years, since the end of 2006. So I've been involved with the community for a long time. Enjoy working with people and kind of putting these conferences on. My involvement was a lot of the back end. So kind of scheduling, working with the speakers, making sure that everything kind of ran.
All right. And with that, we'll go on to our illustrious Senior Joel. Senior Joel, basically people who probably know who you are already, you've been on the show before, but go ahead, tell us again who you are, where you came and how you came about helping put this show, this monster epic show together.
Yeah, so hopefully you do get a chance to read the blog post that kind of tells the behind the scenes and kind of my story anyway. For me, this started with, there's a bit of a backstory, but essentially I was working with Ryan and Galen on running a show in Orange County, and we decided, hey, we still want to make this happen. We want to do this for the community. And I had just done a Teams event on Teams Live Events, a Philly event, and with Russ. And that event went smooth, and I was really impressed with what we were able to do with technology. MVP Summit was run on Teams Live Events, and so I had some already ideas in my head of what it would be like to actually run a full-on event. And so you could say that I was kind of the vision strategy guy, big ideas guy for sure. I was like, how much can a tenant support? Let's max it out. I want to see what Teams Live can actually do. And while we were actually planning the event, Microsoft increased the limits to 50 wide from 15. I thought 15 was pretty huge, but when they went to 50, I was like, there's no reason we can't let anybody who wants to speak at this event. And so I was one of those guys who was like, rah, let's do this thing. Let's push this thing. I wasn't grounded, which is fantastic. Like, everybody kind of backed me up, and we were able to pull this off. I like to say our roles were kind of like executive producer. My role was very much jump from room to room to room. So I think a lot of speakers probably felt like, man, Joel was the worst producer, because I did not stick around very long. I was in, make sure the speakers plugged in, did pretty much no introductions to the speakers. I just want to make sure the tech was running and everything was going well. And then basically, it was a marathon for me. Like, it was, wow. I was up for like more than 24 hours that first day, first night, whatever. And then tried to get a little bit of rest, but we ended up going in shifts, and yeah, I'll stop there. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Anyway.
That was amazing.
Well,
so I have one thing though to follow up on that, because here's the part that came up. It's almost like, you have these sailing voyages, you have some ships that go a little bit further, a little bit over there, and then you say, hey, that guy was able to do that. Hey, that guy was able to do that. Those guys rounded the Cape. We can go to India over the ocean. We don't care how long it is. It's of course we miscalculated, but it's a lot bigger than it looked. But hey, we're going to be successful. It could happen. A little bit of history there. But I'd like to know from Ryan, what possessed you to share your free, and by the way, you can get one if you want to, free M365 Dev Tenant for this endeavor. I mean, I was like thinking, firstly, you had to share it. And I'm like, for me, it's like my Dev Tenant. I'm not going to let anybody in there. You let people in, including myself, by the way. Even I got to speak. So that's how amazing this is. So what possessed you to do that? And what made you think you could pull it off?
Nice part is it's available. It's one of those things like, okay, sure, I've got the tenant available to me. It's got E5 licenses. And we just started, I was like, hey, mine is kind of, out of all the tenants we had access to, mine was the most unencumbered by relationships to other organizations.
That helps.
So it's like, it's a prime place to be able to say, hey, we'll just put it there. So we kind of scheduled it, got people in there. Granted, I'll probably end up doing a cleanup of my Azure AD guest list here before too long, but.
Oh my God. How big is that thing? Like more than 12,000 plus, right?
As far as like the guests, nah, it's only just the speakers. The guests and the tenant. Attendees, they just watch the conference and all the good.
So let's explain to the folks who may not understand the concept over here. Live meetings is what the feature in Teams is what they use. And the way live meetings works, it's not really a Teams meetings per se. It's using Teams and all those pieces. But live meetings is in a sense a reserved area in Azure that Microsoft says you're going to get all these resources, all these machines, and all these bits, but you have to tell me in advance exactly who's in role Y, which is producers, who's in role X, which is speakers. That's all we need to know. When is it going to run, for how long, that sort of stuff. And as long as it's reserved, they get all that ready, because afterwards you can't really make a change. You can't go in and say, I want to add a producer later on. And this is why the producer roles are very, very important. The scheduling and all that jumping around that you're hearing is very important, because once these are done, that's it. There's no way to really undo it. These are
once it's started, producer roles are set in stone.
Exactly. So to join this, of course, you have to be able to join that kind of meeting. You have to being the organization. So this is why Ryan was saying the only members that really had to be in there, the guests, so to speak, were the speakers. The audience, it doesn't matter, because once you open it up and you have it open, audience can come from anywhere anonymously. And here was the key. I thought there was like a, wasn't there like a, was the limits also updated on the audience for Teams? Was that updated for us only or for this group, or was it updated in general? Do you guys recall?
I think as far as like the whole COVID stuff, because like normally the max is 10,000 attendees in one live event.
Right.
I think they bumped these. I can't remember if it was either for COVID timeframes. I think it was 15 to 20,000, something along those lines.
20,000.
So, like, hey, we know organizations are wanting to use this time frame, so we want to open it wide. And
right.
None of our sessions get that big, but
so that makes sense.
10 to 20,000. They actually doubled the number of attendees, and it was the width, like how many concurrent you can be running, that they went from 15 to 50. But the number of attendees, they actually doubled from 10,000 to 20.
Holy smokes. And this is just a dev tenant. I'm just like imagining, like in not too long ago, Larry and I were having a show on how much it costs to just run a simple VM, and how our MSDN credits would just get chewed up, like nobody's business, because we were running a VM. And here we are talking what essentially must sound like massive infrastructure, right, to get running. So just to stick on the technical side really quick, because we're the blue collar techie guys a little bit. On the technical side, what kind of problems did you run into early, and how did they get solved? Because everyone keeps complaining, oh, my Teams is not working, and I'm this and that. It's knowing the kind of problems I have in like small issues. Here you are in a massive situation where everyone's there from all over the world, and you have the Tower of Babel in languages. What did you do, Ryan? And being that you're probably the tech guy, was in charge of that.
So yeah, the big thing about it was like the problems we ran into is like in the middle of, or towards the end of Jeff Teeper's keynote, Teams had a full system outage. So it impacted multiple tenants beyond just ours. So towards the end of Jeff's keynote, the live event that we were running for the keynote just stopped. And if you're doing a live event in Teams, if it's stopped, there is no starting it again. So it's pretty much once it's stopped on its own, we're like, okay, we repointed to the recording that we posted to YouTube, so it wasn't a huge thing. Then after that, we just started prepping for getting ready for sessions. We had out of the, I think we had scheduled to start the day, we had 5 rooms that wouldn't start.
Oh, wow.
And so we had to kind of punt. It's like, okay, well, these rooms don't want to start. Let's switch them over just to a Teams meeting, because we know we can start those. So we kind of did that as an interim. But then in the meantime as well, we're kind of coordinating. We put a support ticket in with Microsoft. We actually have Microsoft employees. They're kind of following from some back channels. Oh. And then they informed us, oh, yeah, there was an outage. And they were able to get it resolved. And then performance was just solid the rest of the event.
So did Microsoft have to do anything special for you guys? Did they like say, hey, Jeff likes those guys, let's give them a hand? Or was it a case of like, oh, just another customer, we're going to help them, we're going to be nice? What was that like?
I don't know that we got any special treatment. If we got special treatment, they didn't tell us they're giving us special treatment.
Joel's there. I'm sure they got special treatment just for that fact. But that's interesting. Okay, so here's an important thing.
It wasn't. In fact, actually, we heard that other tenants were impacted. I don't know how much of that story we can tell, but Caruana did mention that she was actually in the middle of a live meeting at the same time, and the tenant she was on was impacted as well.
Aha. So Caruana, by the way, from Microsoft, one of the major proponents of the adoption for Teams and everything else, another favorite, one of my favorite people on in the community as well. And so this is the part that we talk about. Like, it's a software as a service. One of the most important things about software as a service, when someone's using that or building it or deciding whether or not they're going to choose to do that or do their own thing. Roll your own. If you're going to roll your own, think about what just happened over here. All these things going out, all these things happening. This is happening all over the world. Like I said, the Tower of Babel. And here's the organization looking at it and dealing with it and addressing it. Sure, we have problems, but it looked like they dealt with it in pretty quick order. I do know that by the time I showed up for my producing duties, middle of the day, all that was gone. All that was clear, and I had a nice time.
Right.
Right.
Software as a service is about relationships.
It
And
is.
I mean, that's, and, you know, every customer to Microsoft is a relationship. And so I don't doubt that, you know, if you'd had to make calls to get people actually involved, you
Right.
maybe could have done that. But, you know, having worked with Microsoft support in the past, I mean, they're all just great.
I think though the amazing thing is here for those folks that were leery about having that little dev tenant of their own. Just think about this. He got support with a dev tenant. I'm telling you from experience. When I'm learning stuff, I will sometimes have a support call, and I won't be like fancy and say, give me a call right away. You can email me, and I will get answers or get actually what I call responsive support from that. I think that's been my experience. I'm not sure if anyone has experienced anything differently, really. And yeah, so I'd like to move on to Galen over here really quick. So on the technical aspect, if you heard, things can go wrong, things can go out, and everything else. And Teams is fairly new in the scene. So right, only recently are we able to do the so-called 9x9, 3x3, and now we're going to have other sides. We can do the Brady Bunch now. We can have Hollywood Squares. We can raise our hand. We can do all this cool stuff. But in the end of the day, it's using the technology, the power user technology. So we can have all the smarts to build the damn thing, but we also need the smarts to run the thing, and that's where Mr. Galen came in. Producer, executive, super producer extraordinaire. And I will tell you a real background over here. Before I started, there was a document that said how to be a producer, why to be a producer, how to feel about being a producer. Well, not the how to feel like, but pretty much all the rest, right? And it was so detailed, and I guess it made sure that it crossed cultures when I looked at it, because it said the way they gave it to us, they assigned us blocks of 3 for producers. So we would do like 3 different speakers, and it would say what to do before the first one started, what happened in between, what happens in the next show, instead of like here, figure it out, and here's one example and just do an example like most people do. Galen, did you think up this concept of like giving an exact step-by-step direction? Was that you that came up with that, or did somebody say, can you please do it like that for me?
No, it was me. I sat here and how often do you get to produce an event, live events back to back like that, right?
Right.
In the real world, that doesn't happen very often. So really, I kind of, I just tried to put myself in the shoes of a volunteer producer that might be coming in for the first time to do this, and sat down, for half a day or so, and went through this, testing it on my side to figure out, what would I say if I was a producer, and really try to submerge myself in the role, so that I could hopefully identify with the volunteers. The goal was, to have a successful conference and to really empower people and make them feel included. We're very big tent focused, and so I really wanted everyone to use this as a framework, and then be able to add their own personality and their own pizzazz to the role of being a producer, bring their personalities to the event. And so, yeah, so the guide was created with that train of thought.
That was great. So not only you had a guide, but you had like producer slides. You had a what if something went wrong slide. Come back. Like the good old. Remember in the old days with old TV, they would have that little sign, technical difficulties, and they would have the little color sign. And did you come up with that as well? Did you have to come up with all that?
No. What we definitely brainstormed, scenarios. How would we recover from this? How would we recover from that? How long should we allow a situation, an issue to occur before maybe beginning to redirect attendees to a different session? So we brainstormed that, and then we had great organizers. Jana, she's the one that came up with those super slides, and she took the content that I wrote from a producer guide, and she polished it up and made it present very nicely in the guide that was distributed to all the volunteers. So without her, it definitely would have looked like a standard Word document or a very engineer kind of minded slide to present to everybody. She made it look beautiful.
Wow.
Well, it's also, I do have to add though as well. She was also the design behind our PowerPoint template that the speakers used as well. So she's
okay.
the one that came up with that design and kind of took what we had as an initial for our logo and kind of helped flesh that out into I think a really rocking PowerPoint template.
Wow. So is she a UX person? Because that was like, when I looked at that, I'm like, this was a lot of work. I said, now that I look at it, it's like, it was very professional looking. So I imagine that's her normal line of work during the day, perhaps, and she brought it to the community, which looks nice.
She is a consultant in Prague. Jana Babakova. But yeah, she added a lot to, in fact, the infographic that we all use a lot that kind of shows how many speakers. She did that as well.
Nice.
Great.
Yeah.
And she's a member of the community running events as well. So she, I think that really helps when she brought that mindset. She understands what it takes to get an event organized and to produce one.
Wonderful. Well, so one last thing for you, Galen. It's like, so you were talking about going back-to-back shows, but for you, it wasn't really back-to-back. It was back-to-back, side to side. All right. And I wanted to bring Larry up on this one because I said, think about it right now. It's like, okay, remember how Teams works? It's like you can't be on the same meeting more than once. And how do you clone yourself? Well, there's so many tricky tricks. Well, we can have in private browsing here and there. And after a while, even your machine will say, I can't handle it anymore. What did you do to do back-to-back? And how many possible sessions were you in? Maybe what was the most that you were in producer mode at the same time, Galen? Wait, Larry, you got to hear this.
Sure. So a little bit of context. So there is, going back to the tech, there is live events will expire if there's no producer or speaker in them. So we had to keep the live events running. So we used a combination of Azure Windows 10 VMs, Azure workstations, to keep Teams the live events running. So as Joel was saying previously, he was running across numerous events, and then we'd have the VMs keeping the live events running. Within a Teams client, you can actually connect to 4 different live events at one time. So you can kind of queue them up. That's correct. So you could imagine, I had 10 virtual machines, so 10 times 4. I could have done 40. At one point, we were doing 22. And kind of as Joel's blog post lays it out, you are really kind of you're like a stone skipping across the water, right? You're going in, you're making sure that speakers are ready, that they have everything that they need, and walking them through, hey, when the top of the hour comes, go ahead and introduce yourself and run with it. I've got to get to the next session. And then just trying to evaluate chat messages, and we had a war room kind of team meeting set up,
right,
and monitoring these things to determine if there's any issue, and then being able to respond quickly to the issue as a producer, get speakers pulled in if they weren't joining. These are some of the common problems, right? So as we identified problems, we were trying to make sure that each of us understood what problems were out there, so that we could kind of direct our efforts to those problem areas and remediate them.
Right. I mean, the key over there was the fact that you're able to maintain sessions alive. You're able to quickly go and take a look what those problems are instead of having to like, oh, shoot, now I have to close this in order to go there. You see,
right.
What we're hearing over here, here's a bit of what we're hearing. A lot of these things that people complain that they can't seem to do with Teams or even in the cloud, we're hearing that this is not a problem. You just have to have wherewithal to just do it, right? Or figure it out, right?
And just imagine, I'm currently sitting in front of 2 monitors. On the day of the event, I was sitting in front of 3 monitors. Basically, I had 3 different machines, and so I could, in that sense, I could light up I could light up 12 different live events at one time. I never lit up 12. That was Joel who surpassed me in the maximum number of sessions that he produced at one time. But you know, you could definitely have many of them going, and as long as you could interact with your speakers that were there, then everything was good. It worked out well.
Oh my God.
So did you use Mouse Without Borders? I mean, a plug for the garage, right? Mouse Without Borders box. I use it daily.
I do have a mouse that does go across 3 different machines. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Love that. Love that. When Larry just showed that to me the other day, and I'm like saying, what? Why didn't I know about this, Larry? You've been holding out on me. It's like, so I just discovered this one. I love that one. I'm going to move on over to Joel over here. Here was the big one. There's 2 things about this. Firstly, there was the site itself that was put up. I saw that it was like, I think something that was probably on GitHub for all. I think it was on GitHub.
Yeah, it was GitHub pages.
So it's GitHub pages. So that was really cool that it was done there. The other one was the concept of like the join. Here was the cool thing, right? When you went to the schedule and you clicked on someone, you can just click on join and you got to join. You go straight there. But knowing the way Teams works and Teams live events, if something broke, if the event broke and you got to redo all of a sudden, and I imagine when that outage happened, you had to redo a whole bunch of those schedules. That's a lot of stuff to update. So now over here, we have code that's in GitHub. Is that what you guys did? Did you guys do code to somehow update that information, or did somebody by hand go in and manually? And maybe this is what we want to do in the future, automate that.
You know, that.
Go ahead, Joel.
Yeah, go for it, Ryan.
Okay, because what we ended up doing, the schedule process, like the schedule, everything on the schedule, like the information about it, what language was in, all the tags, the join links, is all just came from information that we had put in Sessionize. So initially we started out, we were going to do bit.ly links. That way, if we had to repoint someone, we could. Bit.ly used to have that functionality. It no longer does unless you're an enterprise level user, which they don't even list the cost on. You have to look for a quote. So we're like, oh, okay. But luckily with Sessionize, all we had to do is we went in and updated the join link that we stored in Sessionize for that session. And then is when we saved it, and then as soon as they refresh the page, it would reload, it would have the new link.
Oh my gosh. So Sessionize is another, by the way, another cloud service that we're using for speakers to be able to go to presentations and stuff. We'll talk about Sessionize at another day, but that's another interesting thing. Wow. So who came up with that? Was that, did you guys figure that out, or was that, who figured out how to do that? I would not have thought Sessionize would have been of help at all. I never thought of that.
I think it was probably a combination of Ryan and I. I started out saying, here's what MVP Summit did right, where they basically created a bunch of ICS files, and it was up to the user to pick which meetings they wanted to go to. And I was imagining, I want something more dynamic. I want a page where I can click on a link and join, but I wanted to have the calendar link as well, be able to add it on your calendar, but we wanted it to be dynamic. We wanted that ability to update it. And unfortunately, what we ended up having to do was going into Sessionize, which we basically created a new attribute, which was the join link. So we basically were able to get those links in there. And that's where Ryan's, dev prowess came to town and helped us figure out how we could actually share the link, pull that in. We knew we needed links, but our ability to pull that in and pull it in through JSON, that was some serious magic. Kudos to Ryan. Like, I had a vision for what I wanted. I wanted calendar links. I wanted join links. I wanted to be all dynamic. But Ryan made it happen.
Wow. It's really cool. See, this is all everything we do every day in action. That's what we love about the community is the fact that, here's the thing, the stuff we do on day in, day out for a fee, I guess, for hire. But most importantly, it's stuff that the community can take advantage of, can use, can benefit from, which is the key that I'm looking at over here. Before I continue over here, Joel, starting from your level, what perhaps could have been maybe different or updated in Teams that probably they probably could do to make things easier going forward? I mean, given that you experienced all this, you can say, hey, Microsoft, maybe you need a way you should change this feature, change that feature. That might be better or something like that. What do you think? What's your top things?
So, my number one is live meetings shouldn't end. Like that one kills me. The fact that if we have somebody who gets interrupted, I don't care how they get interrupted, but if people fall off and it just decides to end, it's over. I don't care. We had meetings that ended without somebody even clicking the end button, and we thought that was the only way to end buttons, to end a end a meeting.
Hey, it's your train. Don't worry, we're almost done.
But yeah, even like with case in point with that is Jeff's keynote. It ended. We had no way to recover. Not something we did. It just ended because of the outage, and we had no way to recover.
Oh dear.
What's worse, and absolutely is a must fix. It ended because of something happened, and it didn't save the recording. It didn't save the meeting minutes. Didn't save the attendees. I think that, I know that Microsoft knows this. I'm sure that they'll fix that one.
Right.
But in some ways, I feel like we learned a lot. Microsoft learned a lot, and it wasn't a total loss. I'm glad it happened toward the end of that session. Good news is we had the whole thing captured anyway, and we talking about dynamic links. We had it linked to YouTube in no time, so that people could actually, anybody who got dropped off, hopped right into the video.
Wow.
So for us, it was dynamic, not a disaster. It was a little bit more difficult with those 5 that we had to move over to meetings.
Sure.
Where we then realized what was really interesting was seeing meetings that had over 200 people in them, and exercising the system of what does a meeting really feel like when you've got 200 people who are not in your organization, and who all of them can unmute, all of them seem to have dogs. There was one in particular, and GoCon knows about this one. I was peering in, looking at the chat stream because the chat stream was going so wild, and it was actually really fascinating to see attendees begging for the live events. Here we are, using meetings as a backup, and they're like, we want live events. We want to have.
You should have done this as a live event.
Control it.
And what it was actually, ironically, that's what it was. This was the backup, so
that was the backup plan.
Oh my gosh, that's actually.
And wow. I think as well, it says something about our ability to do it dynamically, in that event was planned for that hour, and we were able to move over 200 people from an old link to a new link.
Wow.
Within a few minutes.
Wow.
So that was impressive to me to be able to say, hey, we did exercise the system pretty well and had plan A, plan B, and plan C all kind of worked out.
Well, I like the plan C working with YouTube. Now, we try to be a bit agnostic here. So YouTube was the backup in a sense, but was it a backup or was it a simulcast? How exactly was YouTube involved here?
So think of it this way. Everything was live except for, I think it was 15, maybe even less than that, probably 12, 13 sessions from Microsoft where they handed us some videos.
Right.
And I don't know how many people know that part of it, but basically we were given some videos from Microsoft. What was kind of a benefit to us is we were the first ones to get them. The other events who were going to use those same ones were kind of next down the line. Kudos to those guys. It's a community. Thanks for sharing. But basically that Jeff Teeper keynote, it was a video that we had already uploaded to YouTube. So we were able to kind of just flip right over to that.
Okay.
But yeah, we did also, like some of the big keynotes and things, we did simulcast as well. So like we took like Bill Bear's keynote, we live streamed it as one of the events. Plus we also live streamed it to YouTube.
Oh, okay.
And it had both going.
Right. Did that cost thing, or did somebody have to set up or get ready or pay money to somebody for that to happen?
No. I just had my one of my other machines that we had there, since we had a table full of machines. I had one of my other machines that was on as an attendee, and just with OBS running, streamed it straight out to YouTube.
Ah, OBS. Hey there, Larry.
That's
OBS
right.
reared his head. We knew OBS was going to come in here somewhere. Ah, see, again, creative use of the technology, creative use of the cloud services that are out there. The key thing about this is the fact that the infrastructure survived. And if you think about it, what's going on in the world, the fact that they were able to pull this off, because someone could have said, you're using up resources we need over here. We're not going to let you have it. I mean, Microsoft took away the ability to edit OneNote. I think that was more of a gesture than anything else. I'm not sure if it really was a problem because they did everything else that was so big, but then you can't edit OneNote. I'm like, okay, it's really OneNote must be a hotbed of activity that they had to stop editing for it. But meanwhile, these guys over here, well, these baloots, they're using up every resource in the world for free. What's going on? And these people are paying for OneNote. Oh my gosh. Wow. So that's a lot of stuff. I was going to go really quickly. I'm going to do a quick share screen. And what I'm doing is I'm just going to go through my machine and go through some of my, let's see, some of my resources that I had going over here. So just so you know, that slide presentation sample, and you can see over here, it just in my slide share that was given to us, what this looked like. I believe I have some of these over here. They had, we had producer decks that looked like, hold on a second. I'm gonna be blocking my mail over here in a moment. So we were given producer decks. So just to show you what it looked like. See that? It says note to volunteers. Look at that. Welcome to the mile. They called them miles, by the way. Our groups, our blocks of stuff. I liked it. It was very creative. Pointing to the SharePoint conference, by the way. There it is. So everyone sees it. The generous sponsors, which of course were great. Over here, there was a raffle. And if you missed it, too bad. All right, and this is the case where I got to do my. Remember Galen was talking about people. The producers were given a chance to be creative in their own way. And here's an example where they gave me this page. I could have done what I will, and I started looking at other producers. Everyone did something slightly different. So I put my picture in here. I put some information. That's all fine. They were using QR codes. Yes, good job. This was fantastic. Great use of the technology. And now you are entering piece. What else do they have? They had also, let me go get this file up again. Here we go. We had the unplanned scenarios. Yes. Where's my unplanned scenarios? Remember what they said? Check it out. These were cute. I'm glad I never had to use this in mine, but I was just like looking for an excuse to use them, but there were none. They gave me no excuses. They also had some great charities that they were doing on this. Oh, so just to underscore, all this fun that everyone's having, we're using the tech, we're doing all this stuff. Guess what? They were thinking of others during it. I love this. This was, to me, this was one of the most fantastic pieces of it. And I remember even as a producer, I was pushing this particular slide. So, oh yes, what else was in here? I think the guide, the producer guidelines. Yes, you got to see it. I just want to see this guideline. And they're not pirate guidelines. These are guidelines. There, producer guide. Check it out. And it has the nice navigation to all the good stuff of Word happening over here. Check this out. I mean, I'm just scrolling down right now. This is not exactly proprietary necessarily. I'm sure if you ask someone nicely, they'll share it. Galen. And they'll show you what they did. So this was just fantastic piece of work, just showing in very specific directions what needed to be done. It's all branded. All right. So it's not just a Word doc and some notepads or a OneNote that's just unreferenced over here. This is, I mean, complete. Right, going through all the issues. They had a training for us. He met us in groups using the scheduling and calendar items that they had. We were able to meet. They took the time to train us. For those who cared to be trained, I feel sorry for those who didn't take advantage of that. I had a chance to meet other people in the community, see what other people were thinking, what they were asking. The questions they ask actually helps me. If I'm doing this, say, for a client later on, I'll be like, oh, you know what? They're likely to ask this, and I know the answer to that because I would not have thought of it, except that I heard it in this particular user group. So that was really cool. What other things did they have over here? That the schedule. So I just want to show that scheduling view. Here we go. Let's go to the schedule. Of course, where does it go? It goes down here. And right now I have it, for example, filtered to my name. That's how I was able to find it. But just to give you an idea what that schedule looked like. Folks.
A lot of work.
All this. A lot of work. to have this arranged with all these people. And I understand that there are some superstars across the different time zones, the different groups that were handling it. India participated in a very huge way. The French were pretty much pretty much almost the whole world, besides the folks, these guys that were here in English. Japan was a strong, a very strong community, because I remember even on the chat, in the Teams chat, there was so much traffic for just those guys alone.
In fact, let me give you a kudos to Japan. They actually win for the most attended session. You'd think that, oh, well, the most attended session. No, full on breakouts. There were more attendees in our Japanese track than any of the rest. And I've got the numbers to prove it.
Wow. Speaking of those numbers, let's go take a quick tour of some of those numbers that we have over here. Where is that? That's somewhere over here. And I have them over here somewhere. Oh, I'm in the wrong page. Let me go back there. Yes, remember that we have this. Oh, sorry. Almost. Here we go.
See, and you guys question why I have so many tabs. It's easier to look and say, hey, the tab's there.
This tab's right here. So I'm going to go over here, and I had my item here ready to go, and I just wanted to go through some of these sessions over here. So, of course, here's the website as it looked like, and we said this is on Git. All right. This is code, the way we know code, and the way any of these things could be updated, certainly in code. And I talked about like the sessions, when you go to a session, right? And then you find your session that you want, and that's cute.
Yeah,
right?
Pulling from Sessionize.
Right. It's coming from Sessionize, so I can over here select a language, or I can even right off the bat, I can just, for example, I just do a Control F because I didn't have the feature handy over here. So if I look for myself, Ralph, and search for it. There we go. So there's my session. Somebody told me I was the most difficult and advanced session ever in the entire course. After all, it is licensing. You need a PhD to understand, right? So that's how I find myself. So if I wanted to give this one now to share it on my social media to people to come, they just came right over here, and there was a join feature that they had. You click on it, and you were there. And of course, there's my slide share on the original show that was in there. Again, this came from Sessionize. So I saw how they did that. Fantastic use of another service on the web. Fantastic. All right, going back over here, the attendees, and we are seeing over here, Americas, 47% of them came from there. APAC, by the way, is Asia Pacific, 20% of them. And EMEA, that's, of course, Europe, Middle East, Asia, or that the Middle East.
Middle East, Africa.
Yeah, Africa, sorry. It's APAC is Asia Pacific on there. So that's what we have right over here. Let's go take a look at some of these other pictures. The number of users that were on. Wow, look at that. 26,000 new users. What are we looking at over here? This is like the page.
That one is the website.
So yeah, the website you looked at, that's the Google Analytics for how much traffic we had over just a couple of days for the conference.
Holy smoke. So there were 12,000 quote unquote registered attendees. I mean, people didn't exactly need to register, right? It's pretty much anyone could click on the link.
Yeah, that's the secret. Don't tell anybody that.
Yeah. Towards the end, we opened it up to anybody, but just so we can have value for sponsors and people saying, hey, yeah, we've got this many people registered. We kind of kept the join information hidden until the end, when we're like, okay, well, we're not going to get any more registered attendees anyway, so we'll just open it up.
Yes, so that is the dirty secret. You heard it here first. Don't worry about it. We'll bleep all this stuff out later on. All right, producing session. So over here with the concept of what's called the organizer and the producer. So the organizer, which would mean you guys, right? You guys are the organizers, and everyone else that, like, such as myself, we are producers. Would that be what we're talking about over here in of the sessions?
Yeah. I made that little pie chart. Essentially, if you looked at the schedule that had all the producers on it, we totaled up all the ones that were produced by producers versus some that were still available. We basically took those.
I see.
So you could say that the ideally that pie would have been all produced.
Right.
But basically, the other ones were us, covering 3 or 4 rooms.
Wow.
Obviously depend on the time of day, but that was the ones where Galen's saying, Ryan, you got 1, 3, 9. Joel, you take French and German 3. It's like,
wow.
Us kind of just. It was a lot of fun, but the more producers, the easier it would be for sure.
That's
Yeah.
well. There
When
we go.
had
So
50 producers, by the way, and they produced, I don't know if you can see the numbers there, but they produced over nearly 300 sessions.
oh, so let's see. Let's go. I'm not sure if I have that. I'm not sure if I have that number, but I do have this one.
That's a
over
new
here.
number. I got that this morning. I think it
Ah.
was 290 or so that they actually produced, 287, something like that. And we produced 129.
I mean, so like this was the most interesting to me of the graphics over here. Essentially, our where people were, where they were coming from, for example. So there. By the way, the number for the United States is the same as we were talking Halo earlier, and that number, Ryan, you know what that number is, right? Ryan sees this
Master
number
Chief,
right here.
117.
Yes, 117 over there for the United States, but over here. So here's the thing. Look at this. Japan had 14, but they had the most attended. How about it? How about it? All right, there's a feat, right? So you don't. It doesn't mean that if you have more people in this particular sense, if you're going to have more or not. But this is just amazing. These numbers. The MVP speakers there was 164 of them, and they, as Joel said, they pretty much accepted every speaking. I'm sure nobody like submitted something like how to make coffee with your teams, and you had to reject them because it's just too trite. I hope you didn't get any crazy applications like that.
There were a couple sessions we didn't accept.
Oh, really?
A couple speakers, just because the description was either the exact same as the title, or it was just a few words. Or like,
Actually,
we need a little
Ryan,
something more.
You actually don't know that I actually fixed those. I went in later and fixed those sessions, and I reached out to those speakers, and so we can still say we actually accepted 100% of the speakers who submitted.
Wow.
I did a little bit of hand holding there at the end with a handful of them, but
now that's community. That's
nice.
community. Yes.
Hey Ralph, one thing you can show as well, if you go back to the website.
Yep. Coming back to the website.
It kind of shows a different view of the same stuff than if you go to the speaker page.
Coming up to the speaker page.
And then scroll all the way to the bottom.
Okay, ready. 1 second. Let me get my and to the bottom. Check it out.
Oh, there we go.
So there we've embedded a Power BI report which shows you where the dispersal of all those speakers are coming from.
Wow. Larry, well, check this out. Power BI in action.
Power BI in action. That's right.
One of our favorite tools here. Look at this. And it's embedded. Look. Hey, and it's got scrollies.
Well, of course, it's Power BI.
I'm sorry. There was a time that used to be like a commodity. We were like, oh wow. It's like when chocolate first came to the new world, to the old world.
You couldn't even do that with reporting services. I mean, that's I remember when reporting services you had to have an IS installed to even get it to work. Good Lord.
But check it out. So you're looking over here, and we weren't kidding about the languages. Look at the scrolly on this guy.
Yeah.
All right.
One thing most people didn't see as well is working with the Japanese team. There are actually Japanese translated versions of all the pages.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
And then like the session page itself was already pre-filtered to Japanese sessions.
Yeah.
That explains why I had even Japanese people in my audience, actually.
The producer deck, the attendee guide, pretty much everything we put out, the Japanese would translate it. It was awesome. They were very quick.
Strong community.
So I did see some of those, like I saw the French, and I saw the French one because somehow I got on. I talked on the French chat, and then I was forever on their the notification for everything French. So I got to see. I clicked so quickly, and I got the French version of the PowerPoints the first time. But so I saw that. But so imagine it's in Japanese. It's in how many languages did we end up having? Do you recall? Anyone recall the number of languages?
7 official.
7. Okay. That's
nearly 100 sessions, by the way. It was 80, somewhere around. It was on that infographic, but nearly 90 or so foreign language sessions. So it was not just something thrown together. There were 2 tracks for Japanese. There were 2 tracks for Spanish, 2 tracks for French.
Right.
1 for Korean, 1 for German.
Wow.
But it was Yeah, and one for Portuguese.
Yeah.
Incredible. Wow. Like the smallest one had 6 sessions in the track. So it was an effort around each one of these communities for sure.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, it was very humbling to think that we were providing a platform for different communities across the globe to produce their own event within this event. And I think that was, one of the ideas that Joel had shared. Let's make this a platform that other communities can leverage.
Yes.
And I think the Japanese community represents that very well. I mean, to have the highest attended sessions, and I can just tell you that on the back channels and getting to see them work, it was clean. What they were doing was clean. They had really planned it out very well.
I mean, here, let me show you this. This is the Marathon Twitter Power BI report on this. What was most interesting to me that stood out was the most tweeted was the one from Japan on this date.
That was retweeted.
Yeah, and that actually doesn't change. If you look, 2 of the top 3 of the most tweeted, and then as well, if you look at the top tweeters,
right?
I would say 7 of the top 10 tweeters were actually Japanese.
Out of Japan. So that's the one that when we said that the Japanese were really all over the place and why they had all that attendance, it was very clear they really took this and they ran with it.
Yeah,
that was fantastic. Oh, wow. So that's why I'm over here again. They're still high tweeting, but of course I don't have my date set.
Yeah, that's like that. What's great is to see AI who, if you're looking for, more background materials on the event, you can actually which is AI, that one there.
Yep.
She actually wrote a fantastic blog in Japanese about the event, kind of a recap. So if you want the Japanese recap, there's actually a blog post on it. Really good.
There we
really
are.
good.
So I Hirano over here. So of course she's an MVP. Look at that. So that's the Power BI piece. I think I've covered a lot of my pieces. I was just wondering over here, any final thoughts? And I'm going to stop sharing for.
There was one you flashed on for just a second.
Oh yeah, let's go back to that.
There's a Power BI report from Yoshi from Japan. I might be saying his name wrong. Fantastic Power BI report of the sessions themselves, where you can actually see.
Oh, this one.
Filtered by audience, filtered by language, filtered by technology of the entire event.
Right. So let's go ahead and, like, for example, I'm filtering now. This should be live.
You're not sharing.
Oh, I'm not sharing anymore.
There. We got one more square.
We got one more square. One moment. Let me go share again.
Bingo.
I think. Oh yeah, I stopped sharing. So let me go back and I'm going to share again real quick. And sharing. Let's okay. My Power BI should be showing up again. This was the Power BI report we were talking about.
Oh, nice.
All right. So so by the way, so people who are into Power BI, this, all right, is a best practice sample of what a nice Power BI item looking at schedules and information should look like. Nice.
I would actually say this is the most impressive Power BI report I've ever seen, personally.
This is
it's
very
incredible.
high level. I mean, look at this here. So I'm just choosing, for example, just English, but let's not do that. Let's go ahead and select Spanish. Here we go. We'll take Spanish, and we'll select, for example, advanced. Coming down, and we have one reportaje in Microsoft 365. Here we go, and all the times and to work remote. So this is on a remote work, and it's advanced and it's administration. Check it out, and look, check it out. Whoa, look at this.
Oh, with the tool tips.
With the tool tips, and look what it does there, Larry.
Yeah.
I'm shaming
Not just
Larry
slicers.
into learning
I
it.
mean, no. I got it.
And Ralph, one of the things that's kind of cool that we did as well is even with all the different languages, all of the English sessions were available in all of the 6 other languages.
Okay.
Due to live captioning and live translation built into Teams live events. So the official languages that we had, so English and German support that feature. So all the English sessions and all the German sessions being live in all 7 languages.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine? I mean, and that's the people sometimes forget about that. They forget about language support because when you're going global, and even sometimes for folks that are local, where their culture is coming in from someone different, it's nice to be able to cater to what's easier for them to look at. And the tools are there, and as they say, just use them. I like to think international. Whenever I'm doing any kind of work, I always think global to begin with, as if somebody with another culture or language is going to be looking at it. And unless, of course, the requirements specifically say don't care about that culture, I'm not going to touch it. But actually, fortunately, that's not happened recently. Oh, look at this, my power user one. So let's see if I'm going to have what did I wonder where I came up with. Did I come up as a power user? I wonder where licensing came up. What would licensing be? Administrative or business?
If only we could talk to the person that submitted that session.
Yes,
Yeah.
true. I wonder which one it came up. I'm going to try to find my session here. It could be one of
Do a
these
search on
guys.
title.
You could always
By the
search the
way-
title field.
That's right.
By the way, one other kind of quick thing. We knew beforehand that we were going to actually have guests that were going to be tuning in. So we wanted to make sure all the closed captioning, all of the accessibility features were actually turned on, and we had no complaints from an accessibility perspective. I'm happy to announce as well. But that was actually upfront, knowing we were going to have people who needed closed captioning and accessibility features turned on.
Very cool.
Basically, there's a feature where they run the session through some kind of tool where it actually speaks it or signs it even. That's what I meant to say, is like it actually will sign the what's being said.
Aha.
Cool.
Oh, by the way, so I found my session. There it is. It's I am English, I am administration, and I am intermediate. There we go. And so, but that was easy. I just put in the first few words. This is okay. I didn't have to go star or any kind of fancy search terms or nothing. I just went there. Oh, I like this. Look at that. Go to calendar. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. Okay, I'm sorry. Now this
All
is
right.
one of my favorite Power BI reports. Look at that. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. I'm blown. He did a
Yeah.
calendar. Calendars
Well,
are
guys,
hard.
Guys, thank you for letting us kind of see underneath the
Yes.
covers, behind the scenes, under the hood, as it were, since we're kind of, tech talk here. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. Great job all around. And
Fantastic.
and
We're going to turn this around
the
as
big
quickly
thing
as we
for
can.
me, the big thing for me is letting go that much control. I mean, a lot of times people want to hold it in, but y'all you did it the right way. Open it up to the community and let it go out there. And what came back is so much more than probably even you expected.
Greater than the sum of its parts, right?
That's right.
To me, on the letting go part, it's trusting the technology to do its thing. Because a lot of the things that you did over here, sometimes even internally, we're trying to get them folks to say, hey, you should do this, you should do that. Oh, no, we can't trust that this will work. Our CEO is afraid that that's going to break. They don't want to be in that blue screen Bill Gates moment or whatever. And it's like, look, think about it, though. You have to trust it. You have to trust that things will go wrong, and you have to deal with them. I'm going back to Galen and said, hey, we plan for things that can go wrong because, true, things will go wrong. But as long as you accept that things will happen, it will rain because the earth rains, then you're good. That's the part that I think I want to underscore. The cloud is about that, right? The cloud is the case where, like, hey, it's great, but things happen in the cloud. It's not like you're like, it doesn't solve your problems. It gives you other problems, but at least it gives you the room to deal with the problems and the open community to make it happen. So that's my rant to that one too. Gentlemen, any last words?
I do want to say something real quick.
Yes.
This is not a competition, obviously.
Yes.
But we like to set a high bar. I would welcome anyone to try and beat our numbers in terms of number of concurrent sessions, especially.
Yes.
But I would love to start seeing SharePoint Saturdays, M365 Saturdays, people running community events on the platform. This was not us trying to do something exclusive. We were trying to prove that you can do all sorts of amazing, crazy things on this platform. And I think we're going to see more. And I hope that all those producers we trained we'll actually share that training. You know, this is something that is the beginning of a moment, especially with the COVID and the crazy stuff that's happening. More and more online events is what people need.
Great.
And the beauty of this is the cost. If you have access to an Office 365 tenant, it costs nothing. As far as Sessionize, it's a community event. It costs nothing. So there's nothing really stopping people from being able to attempt, even on a small scale, what we went through. If they want to say, hey, once we get back to in-person events, why not include a live aspect of it? It's doesn't take a whole lot of effort just to set up a camera and have the presenter share their screen while they're doing the presentation, and now you have a much larger audience that can benefit from the content that's being shared.
Right.
Indeed. Mr. Galen, last words from you, sir.
I just, I want to say that as we said at the closing of the event itself, this was by the community for the community. So we had that mindset from the get-go, and it was definitely a humbling experience and a heartfelt experience to connect with people all over the globe. And then the last thing I'd like to add is, keep visiting the YouTube channel. We are working on post-production to get those videos posted as quickly as possible. So keep going back there to watch the sessions that you may have missed since we were.
Yeah, we've got 92 of them up there right now.
Whoa. Wow. We're going to post all these links together with this posting. So there's going to be the YouTube channel, of course, the main channel. We're going to post that as well. There's one last thing that I'd like, though, to cover just before we go. If you guys are going to be anywhere else, are you going to present somewhere or do something soon? I will allow you guys to plug them right now, other than the fact that you'd want us to go visit the YouTube channel. Maybe start with Joel, because I know he's always somewhere.
Yeah, right now I'm doing a UK user group this weekend.
Wow.
Friday or something like that. So in the days of virtual, I'm doing one in Australia in a month or two as well. So I would like to say any user group leads that are actually on that liked what you heard here, we are actually kind of doing a traveling show where we're happy to share the knowledge, share the information. I've actually been putting together a deck that is our show. It's like what we did, how we did it, how you can do it too.
Wow.
So that session is now available if anybody's looking to include that in their event. Whether Ryan, I, and Galen can all make it is up to those guys, but I'm happy to share the story, and I'll be talking actually to Microsoft MVPs. There's a Teams MVP thing next Tuesday. Would love to have anybody on that are MVPs that want to hear our story there.
Right.
And as well, there's I'm in Slovenia in October, and I've submitted for the event in Canada in October. So we'll see if the physical events are happening again.
There we go. All right, but at least we know we can do it virtual, so that's great. Ryan, do you have anything, any appearances? If you're live on stage somewhere, we'll be sure to send somebody out.
So pretty much, traveling, not so much anything planned at this point in time. Next actual physical event is supposed to be SharePoint Fest Seattle, which just got bumped to October. So we'll see how it goes. But as far as actual events, I know Joel, Galen, and I are kind of scheduled for a UK-based user group next week, and then we also have Kansas City that we're doing about a month from now.
Going to Kansas City. Here I come. Great. Okay, Galen, any place we might see you live where we have to pay a tip to waitresses, perhaps?
No, yeah. As Ryan said, I think we'll be the UK group next week, Kansas City in a month. And as Joel stated before, if you're interested, let us know. We'd like to share the story and help pay it forward and enable this capability for others.
Wonderful. And with that note, Larry, you want to sign us out?
That's it. Thanks, guys.
That's all. See you, Larry. See you, Joel. See you, Ryan. See you, Galen. We'll be online. We'll catch you on LinkedIn, catch you live. And you guys have fun. Thank you so much for making time for us today.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having us. See ya.
All right. Bye-bye, all.